You can't be, in the warehouse making sure that the machines are getting out on time and answering people's phone calls about any issues that they're having or service related issues. And then at the same time, still trying to grow the business and sell. Like at a certain point, you just can't do. There's not enough hours and energy in the day. I don't care how motivated you are. It's just not feasible. So at a certain point, you have to be able to delegate. First, I want to go through some traits to look for in general for good employees and good hires. What are some good traits? Obviously, they need to lead by example, and especially for managers that you're hiring, they definitely need to lead by example and have that leadership skills, right? If you're hiring for someone that's purely doing execution, then you're looking for other traits. And then later on, we're gonna kind of go through knowing what to look for. What are the roles that are specific for custom apparel businesses, right? What are the 4 roles? We're gonna go through 4 roles to look for when expanding your custom apparel business. And then last but not least, kind of wrap things up with what are some things that you can, now that you know who to hire and what to look for, what are some things that you can retain those hires as you go? Okay, so this is kind of my 3-point philosophy on what I consider to be a top employee. And this is the guiding principle and the guiding philosophy for every single hire that we do here at Ricoma. Number 1, they have to show that they're motivated. That's first and foremost. They have to show that they're motivated. Number 2, over time, you might not be able to see this within the first few days or weeks or months, but generally within the first 30 days, you're probably able to tell whether they're capable or not. Okay? After probably the first 30 days, people say there's a probation period of 90 days. You kind of give them that trial period. But what I found is within the first 30 days, you already have a good idea. You don't need 90 days to drag that out. Within the first 30 days, you should have a good idea whether they're capable or not.
5 days.
Right, or even less, right? Well, I would say that 5 days, and you probably should have vetted a little bit better than it got that short. Like, wow, it didn't work out in 5 days. Probably should have vetted a little better. But I think over the course of 30 days, you're able to tell, like, okay, I thought he or she was good, and then if that's continued to be the case, and you were right, or you're moving in a different direction. And then last but not least, loyal, right? If you want to scale long term, you can't be having a revolving door and just come in and then 6 months later you're out, 3 months later you're out, and then we'll have to keep on hiring new people. Obviously, as you scale your business, turnover is going to become more often. That's just it's a numbers game, right? When you have 5 people, the turnover is fewer. Only 1 or 2. But then as you get to 100 people, then more percentage of that, a certain percentage of that is going to turn over. But finding those critical hires, those key hires within your organization that are loyal, especially at the management level, is super, super important, right? And obviously, loyalty is not a one-way street. You have to, as a business owner, be able to provide some kind of value and that rapport with your employees to retain them, to make them loyal to the company and to your vision of what you want to achieve. So, and this is what happens, this is the kind of framework that I think about, the philosophy that I have. This is what happens when you only have two out of 3. All those 3 things have to come together. All those 3 traits have to come together in order to make what I consider a rock star. If you just have 2 out of those 3 things, if you just have 2 out of those 3 traits that I just mentioned, being motivated, being capable, and being loyal, if you only have 2 out of those 3 in this triangle, this is the result that you get. If you're motivated and you're capable, but you're not loyal, then your results are really just temporary, right? They're good, they're very capable, and they're motivated, but if they're not loyal to the company, you get that spurt of growth for 2 months, and then that's it. You have to start over. You have to retrain someone. If they're motivated and they're loyal, but they're not really capable, then you get lackluster results, right? They're really motivated, but they're just not good. They're just not capable at their job. I mean, they're super loyal. Hey, I want to work. I want to retire here. But if they're not capable, then the results you're getting is lackluster. And last but not least, if they're capable and loyal, but you're not motivated, then you get inconsistent results. It's like I'll do what you tell me to, You know, I get it done, and then it's like, well, you know, if I don't have to do it, I don't do it. So it's inconsistent. You get a spurt of growth here, and they hang around just for the sake of the job, right? They're loyal, but they hang around for the sake of the job. This is just a job to me. This is not really a career. This is not what I really believe in. I'm not really passionate about this. Then they just tell you exactly. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Then this is really just something, you know, to get them by, and then that's when you see that the results are inconsistent. You might get great results one day, and then if you don't tell them to do something, they won't be proactive enough to do it. So the next day, it's something else, right? So you have to have all three of these things to really become what I consider a rock star. And obviously, you know, made a ton of hiring mistakes in the past, but I hope through the kind of process, as I mentioned, the day in, day out of the process, and nowadays probably recruiting and retention is probably about 75% of what I do. Like at this point, it really is. When you have a you know 50+ person team, you know there's turnover. There's people you know that don't work out, and then you have to constantly you know have a pipeline of new candidates to train, to onboard, et cetera, et cetera. So that literally is, you know, people is literally probably 75% of what we do here, right? Especially at management levels. Okay, and so what is considered a top employee? The things I don't really look for things that are specific to the skill. I look for whether you're really coachable or not, because I think that value is more valuable to me in the long run than it is whether you have the exact skills that I'm looking for. And I found that to be entirely true. And when I didn't realize this, I would say several years ago, and I was like, no, you have to have this. It was like you have to check off every single box that I have on this checklist. If you don't have sales experience, if you haven't done sales for 5 years, then that was the benchmark. If it wasn't 5 years and it wasn't in something like heavy equipment related or you know things like that, then it's like no, then you'll be stuck in a forever loop trying to find the perfect candidate. There's no perfect candidate. There's just the right candidate, right? You're not trying to look for someone perfect. You're just trying to find the right fit. So over the long run, I found that you know skills can be taught. I can teach you how to sell, right? But are you coachable? Are you willing to listen to the advice? Are you going to implement those tactics right after you're being coached? That is more valuable in the long run than having skill sets that are already coming in, right? There's a certain level of like foundation. Like obviously, you know, say we're hiring for a sales role. If you're shy and talking to people, like that's a fundamental thing, then it's hard to coach that. But if you're personable, but you just haven't sold anything before, I can coach you to become a rockstar salesperson. If you're able to, if you're capable and you're motivated to implement the things that we're telling you, and that you want to grow with the company in the long run, right? That is more that, and you can find a lot bigger pool of those people than the exact things that you need to check off for people that have this experience, have 5 years of sales experience, and et cetera, right? So those things is kind of the philosophy that we have here at Ricoma in any of our hires. Like, how are you going to grow the company long term? Are you trying to build a career here? And do you have the personality that you can be coached? Okay, some of our top employees here, they lead by example. They not only just know what they need to do, but they bring up everyone else around them. And that's super important, and that's a vibe that's very, very subtle. Because listen, I would every single day out of the week, I would take a person that is not a rock star, but is able to just make people around them better and feel better, and just a genuinely nice person, than a rock star that's generating millions of dollars of revenue, but you're an ass. Like that's that is more detrimental to the entire environment. Yeah, it's toxic, right? That's more detrimental to the entirety, right? Than just looking at you're bringing in the numbers. You do what you do really, really well, but everyone around you is miserable. Like that doesn't work, right? In the macro, that doesn't work, right? You don't be focused on just the short-term results. So they lead by example, and they are able to get those around them better. And those are some of the top ones, because not only can they do what they do best, But you put one of those in there, like you realize, wow, like 10 other people are bringing up their game. Like that's your hidden rock star that you want to find. Right? And the purpose of all this is you can't do it alone. There's no way for you to grow and scale once it gets past a certain point. There's no way for you to be every single place at once, unless someone invents a cloning machine or something and you're able to clone yourself. Like that's how I felt. At a certain point, it's like you can't be in the warehouse making sure that the machines are getting out on time and answering people's phone calls about any issues that they're having or service related issues, and then at the same time still trying to grow the business and sell. Like at a certain point, you just can't do. There's not enough hours and energy in the day. I don't care how motivated you are. It's just not feasible. So at a certain point, you have to be able to delegate. Right? Too many hats. I mean, how many of you are like juggling like nine things at once? It's crazy. You have to I have to hand deliver the orders. I have to pack it. I have to get on the call with the customer to confirm the specs. I have to do the design. I have to actually do the embroidery. I mean, if you guys get some help with your wife or your partner or whatever the case is, it's a little bit better. But still, it's like it gets to a certain point where that cycle is you wear too many hats and then you're like jumping all over the place. Especially when you're jumping from task to task. It takes you a little bit of time to get back into the groove, right? Like if I'm doing something and I'm in the zone and someone asks me a question and I'm like, okay, I take the time to answer, and then you go back, you're like, oh, what the hell was I doing? I'm like, okay, wait, gather my thoughts for like 5 minutes, and it's like, oh yeah, I was doing that. Okay, you get back into it, and that you do that like 28 times during the day. I mean, imagine how much time you're wasting. 5 minutes each time getting back into it, right? You just wasted hours. So you can't wear too many hats. You're forced to when at the beginning stages of your company, because there's no other choice. You're a startup, you're starting out, and this is what you have, and that's fine. Then you have to do that. But at a certain point, you have to be able to delegate and know that having too many hats is actually holding you back. Having all that control is holding you back. And you have to delegate some of the things and be okay with the fact that it's not going to be 100%. But I'm okay with 90% because now we're moving forward. More hands equals more productivity. I mean, like this, like I mentioned, this event would not be possible without the people behind the scenes. Like, there's no way that I can do this on my own, or a team of 2 or 3 can do this on their own, right? There has to be a collaboration. So the efficiency just exponentially increases. And when you have that click, when things start to click and sync between the members of your team, it synergizes. It's like a huge synergy. The sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's like every individual person is bringing up the energy around them, and the entirety of your organization is growing in the right direction.